guys, welcome back. It's Miss Wagers again, and we are going to continue reading Pecos Bill today. This is a really fun story as we are continuing lesson 10. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Our learning intention for today is that we are learning to use details from the text so that way we can make some inferences about characters, okay, specifically about Pecos Bill today. We know we are successful when we can identify characters in the story, make inferences about character traits, and then support our inferences with some text evidence. Always that text evidence. I think I say it every single lesson. Text evidence. That's super important. All right, and our foundational skills, we are still working on compound words. So you have a fluency read that you can practice reading on your own and then read it with mom or dad, anyone around. And then also, if your teacher sends it out on Seesaw, then you can record it for your teacher. Okay, this fluency read is called Busy at the Quilting Bee. And again, with that focus of compound words, remember that compound words are made up of two smaller words that are put together. So, for example, we have the word bedspreads. So, that compound word is made up of the word bed and spreads, and we put that together to have the word bedspreads. Or the next word on our list is buttermilk. So, we have the word butter and milk. Once you recognize those two words, you can put them together to make the word buttermilk. Okay, and then we move on. We have day long, everyone, far away, hard working, hen house, homesteads, patchwork, something, whatever. Okay, so I hope you enjoy that fluency read and remember to go slow, take your time, and pay attention to those compound words. For vocabulary today, we have the word ignorant. Okay, and ignorant, sometimes people will say, oh, that's not a nice word. Okay, and it's not really always a nice word to use, especially if someone is calling a name like that, but ignorant means it's an adjective, it's a describing word that means lacking knowledge or awareness in general. So it kind of means like you're being uneducated or unsophisticated. Okay, so it's important that we're focusing on our lessons. That way we can make sure we get a good education, right? So in our picture, we have this boy and he's just throwing the book over his shoulder. Okay, so he's not interested in learning anything. The second word that we have is dazed. Okay, and you might have heard of this word before. The word dazed is on page 57 and it's also an adjective. It means unable to think or react properly, like bewildered, like I was dazed, like I just didn't even know what to do, right? It's like, oh my gosh, like, huh? Okay, dazed. So you're unable to think or react like in a normal or proper way. So let's go ahead and read our story. And you notice that we have a stop and think question here. Okay, and on this stop and think question, we think, what does the conversation between Pecos Bill and the Cowpokes reveal about Bill? Okay, so let's go ahead and read, and then we're going to think about this question. No, you ain't. Yeah, I am. I got fleas, don't I? Well, that don't mean nothing. A lot of Texans got fleas. The thing varmints got that you ain't got is a tail. So remember, Bill is saying, I'm a varmint. I'm not a cowboy. Okay? Oh, yes, I do have a tail, said Pecos Bill. Let me see it then, said the cowpoke. Bill turned around to look at his rear end, and for the first time in his life, he realized he didn't have a tail. Dang, he said, but if I'm not a varmint, what am I? You're a cowboy, so start acting like one. Bill just growled at the feller, like any coyote worth his salt would. But deep down in his heart of hearts, he knew the cowpoke was right. For the last 17 years, he'd had a sneaking suspicion that he was very different from that pack of coyotes. For one thing, none of them seemed to smell as bad as he did. Ugh. Remember, he didn't bathe a lot. Ugh. So with a heavy heart, he said goodbye to his four-legged friends and took off with the cowpoke for the nearest ranch. Acting like a human wasn't all that easy for Pecos Bill. Even though he soon started dressing right, he never bothered to shave or comb his hair. He'd just throw some water on his face in the morning and go around the rest of the day looking like a wet dog. Ignorant cowpokes claimed Bill wasn't too smart. Some of the meaner ones just liked to joke that he wore a $10 hat on a 5-cent head. The truth was, Pecos Bill would soon prove to be one of the greatest cowboys who ever lived. He just needed to find the kind of folks who'd appreciate him. One night when he was licking his dinner plate, his ears perked up. a couple of ranch hands were going on about a gang of wild cowboys. All right, so let's go back to our stop and think question. So when we are stopping to think about this conversation between Pecos Bill and the cowpoke, remember that happens at the beginning of the page. So this is when he's saying, "Yeah, you're a cowboy," and Pecos Bill Pecos Bill said, "No, I'm a varmint." He thinks he's a coyote. Okay, he said, and the cowpoke says, "No, you ain't." And Bill says, "Yeah, I am. I got fleas, don't I?" Well, that don't mean nothing. A lot of Texans got fleas. The thing varmints got that you ain't got is a tail. "Oh, yes, I do have a tail," said Pecos Bill. "Let me see it then," said the cowpoke. Bill turned around to look at his rear end, and for the first time in his life, he realized he didn't have a tail. "Dang, but if I'm not a varmint, what am I?" "You're a cowboy, so start acting like one." So, what does this conversation tell us about Bill? Right? Like, Bill really had that belief that he was a varmint or a coyote. Like, he didn't think he was a human or a cowboy. Okay, so he's really having this belief, and it takes someone else coming up to him and really pointing out the flaws, like, "Hey, just because you have fleas doesn't mean you're not human, and you don't have a tail. Like, you're a person, you're a cowboy." Okay, and so that's showing that Pecos Bill, like, he really just believes that, well, I'm just meant to go around and be a varmint. Okay, but this cowpoke is actually showing him, like, "No, you're a cowboy, so start acting like one," he said. So it's showing us that Bill maybe, isn't thinking the highest of himself, but he also didn't ever know any better because remember, he fell off the wagon when he was just a baby and he was raised by coyotes. "Yep, those fellows are more animal than human," one ranch hand was saying. So let's go back and refresh ourselves of where we were. Okay, a couple of ranch hands were going on about a gang of wild cowboys. "Yep, those fellows are more animal than human," one ranch hand was saying. "Yep, they're the toughest bunch I ever come across. Heck, they're so tough they can kick the fire out of Flint Rock with their bare toes. Yep, and they like to bite nails in half for fun." "Who are these fellers?" asked Bill. "The Hell's Gate Gang," said the ranch hand. "The mangiest, meanest, most low-down bunch of low-life varmints that ever grew hair." "Sounds like my kind of folks," said Bill. Before anyone could holler "whoa," he jumped on his horse and took off for the Hell's Gate Canyon. So let's stop and think, why does Pecos Bill go in search of the Hell's Gate Canyon? Right, Miss Wagers? It's right there in the text. It says, "Sounds like my kind of folks." So Bill's really thinking that, man, maybe these are some people that I can get along with. Okay, if they are mangy and low down, that kind of reminds me of me, right? Bill hadn't gone far when disaster struck. His horse stepped in a hole and broke its ankle. "Dang," said Bill as he stumbled up from the spill. He draped the lame critter around his neck and hurried on. After he'd walked about 100 more miles, Bill heard some mean rattling. Then a 50-foot rattlesnake reared up its ugly head and stuck out its long, forked tongue, ready to fight. "Knock it off, you scaly-hided fool. I'm in a hurry," Bill said. Before the cussed varmint could strike, Bill had no choice but to knock him cross-eyed. "Hey, feller," he said, holding up the dazed snake. "I like your spunk. Come go with us." Then he wrapped the rattler around his arm and continued on his way. After Bill hiked another 100 miles with his horse around his neck and a snake around his arm, he heard a terrible growl. A huge mountain lion was crouching on a cliff, getting ready to leap on top of him. And remember, crouching, that was a vocabulary word that we had a while back, and then it was in How the Stars Fell into the Sky too. Crouching, bending down, low, right? So a huge mountain lion was crouching on a cliff, getting ready to leap on top of him. "Don't jump, you mangy bobtailed fleabag," Bill said. "Well, call any mountain lion a mangy bobtailed fleabag, and he'll jump on your back for sure." After this one leapt onto Bill, so much fur began to fly that it darkened the sky. Bill wrestled that mountain lion into a headlock, then squeezed him so tight that the big cat had to cry uncle. That means he was like, "No, stop." When the embarrassed old critter started to slink off, Bill felt sorry for him. "Aw, come on, you big silly," he said. "You're more like me than most humans I meet." He saddled up the cat, jumped on his back, and the four of them headed for the canyon, with the mountain lion screeching, the horse neighing, the rattler rattling, and Pecos Bill hollering a wild war whoop. So, we're going to think about character traits today of Pecos Bill. And remember that character traits are words that describe the character's personality or qualities that make them who they are. So, in other words, how you would describe the character to someone else. So, let's think about how we're going to describe Pecos Bill by looking back at this page one more time. Okay, so I see on this page 50, they had said, start acting like a cowboy. Okay, that's what the cowpoke had said to Pecos Bill. Start acting like a cowboy. Okay, so on page 56, the ranch hands talked about the toughest bunch of low-life varmints that ever grew hair, to which Bill responded, sounds like my kind of folks, right? So these lines of dialogue on this page, right here, and you can see them, these fellows are more animal than human, one ranch hand was saying. They're the toughest bunch I ever came across. Heck, they're so tough they can kick fire out of flint rock with their bare toes. Yep, and they like to bite the nails in half for fun. Who are these fellers? The Hell's Gate Gang, said the ranch hand. They're the mangiest, meanest, most low-life varmints that ever grew hair. And like we said, Pecos Bill says, sounds like my kind of folks. And before anyone can holler, whoa, he jumped on his horse and took off for the Hell's Gate Gang. So the fact that they're saying that these are the mangiest, most low-life varmints, okay, and that they also said that Pecos Bill says that sounds like my kind of folks, I can make an inference, okay, because it doesn't tell me right in the text, so that's an inference that Bill really likes to be wild and free, right? They're saying they're mangy, they're wild, they're low life. And Bill's like, yeah, that sounds good to me. So I'm thinking, man, Bill really likes to be wild and free, and he just likes to take off on his own and do his own thing. I mean, that's basically what he's done his entire life, right? So now, part of my success criteria is that I need to be able to use evidence from the text to support my answer. So what I had just said was that they said that they were the most mangiest, low-life varmints that ever came, or the toughest bunch of low-life varmints is what I put in my graphic organizer, okay? And Bill says, sounds like my kind of folks. So that's showing that he really likes to be wild and free. Okay, he's really thinking, man, that sounds like a great group of people. It sounds like we would really get along. So I want you to think about from our previous page, I'll go back right here. Okay, when we're looking at this page, what are some other pieces of text evidence that show that Bill likes to be wild and free? Okay, that he kind of likes to go and do his own thing. Okay, so for your reading response, you're going to fill in these last two boxes. Okay, with two more pieces of text evidence that show that Bill really likes to be wild or free. Okay, so you're going to use evidence from the text to help support the inference that I made. Okay, because the text doesn't say it, the author didn't tell us, oh, Bill likes to be wild and free. That's something that I came up with on my own based on the text. Okay, I want you to come up with two more reasons to support my inference. All right, I hope you have a wonderful day. Make sure you're getting all of your work done, and I will see y'all the next time. Bye, everyone.